The rains of Andrea have passed, and Saturday is a gorgeous one in New York, and the Mets finally get to start their homestand. Back from the wilds of the off on the road and back in New York and ready to go in beautiful Saturday weather. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Miami Marlins. Have a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets begin a rain-shortened two-game series against the Marlins. Rain, snow, cold. The Mets have been through it all this year. 6 postponements and a suspended game. They've got a lot of games to make up down the road, but most recently they played just 2 games in the last 5 days because of off days and the bad weather. This team just can't seem to get any kind of a rhythm going.
You know what's interesting about baseball? It's supposed to be a routine game. Well, nothing's been routine about the Mets' schedule this season. If you think about it, let me try to walk you through it. They're going to have a doubleheader in Washington. They're going to have a doubleheader coming up at Atlanta. They got to go back to Minnesota. They have to go back to Denver. It's just going to be a crazy ride for them after the All-Star break.
And last night's game rescheduled as part of a doubleheader on September the 14th. They've got that to look forward to as well. Now, the Mets have not played very well against the Miami Marlins, who have handled them this year, and particularly Matt Harvey. 2 starts against Miami. He hasn't pitched very well in either one.
And those 2 starts this year are the only starts he has not gone 6 innings. You see those 10 hits and 5 innings given up. He has remarked, though, in between these starts that he was really raring to go for the first time to face the team back-to-back.
And for the second time, the 2 young phenoms will go head-to-head as Harvey matches up against Jose Fernandez.
This young man is a bear of a pitcher, I'll tell you. Great slurve, great fastball, throws 95-plus in his last start against the Mets. He really dominated him. He had a couple of hits. He knocked in one, but when he was on the mound, he just really rushed through him. He's got a slider as good as any in baseball. Now, remember, this young man is only 20 years old. He's been great against the Mets so far, too. 4 starts in his 12 career starts. His 4th, will be here today.
So the Mets will match Matt Harvey against Jose Fernandez on a brilliant day in New York. Mets and Marlins, all the action coming your way on SNY. is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on the most innovative lineup ever. Shop at ChooseNissan.com. By Bob's Discount Furniture, proud to be the furniture store of the New York Mets. By Macy's and by Geico. The next T-Shirt Tuesday is this Tuesday when the Mets host the Cardinals at 7:10 p.m. Score both a ticket in the left field landing and a limited edition T-shirt for just $19. A limited number of tickets are available. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX. Here's your drive around the majors presented by Kia. 5 days in the big leagues, and Yasiel Puig is already a legend. 4 home runs. Only Mike Jacobs has done that in modern baseball history. Adam Wainwright 9-3 now after the Reds beat the Cardinals beat the Reds to open up a 4-game lead in that competitive National League Central. And Justin Verlander goes 7, allowed 7 hits and beat Cleveland 7-5. Tigers now 3.5 in front of the Indians in the AL Central. Mets bullpen making their way out. Matt Harvey making his way in. Getting ready for his 13th start. Mets and Marlins first pitch coming right up. Well, 12 starts into the season, nobody's beaten Matt Harvey yet, but the Marlins have come the closest as they probably had better swings against Matt in his last start than anybody has had this year. They had 10 hits, first time he's given up 10 hits in a game in his career. And here's the Marlins starting lineup that he'll face today, brought to you by Hyundai. You've got the rookies second, third, and fourth in the batting order, Lucas Dietrich and Ozuna, all of whom had big series against the Mets last weekend when the Marlins swept 3 from New York. And Juan Pierre's bat has begun to perk up again at age 35, and he's getting regular playing time again.
You're telling me Greg Dobbs is not in the lineup today?
That's a little surprising, considering the way he has hit against the Mets, not only this year, but in past years.
Well, Matt Harvey taking the mound. You'll see his numbers from this season. Perfect on the win side, 5-0 is the Jaguar numbers. Take a look. The numbers that aren't good, though, against the Marlins this year, and I thought what was really interesting, Matt was asked a lot of times, first time in his career he's going to face a team back-to-back. How difficult was that? He said, well, I don't know if it's difficult, but I know I'm looking forward to it because need to pitch better against the Marlins.
Well, with as much determination as we have seen from Matt over the course of his relatively brief career, I think this is a challenge to him to figure out a way to beat a team that has, frankly, had his number so far.
We've got some really interesting looks. There's Mike Redmond from the Marlins. For the Mets today, we've got some guys in stirrups, John Buck and Daniel Murphy. We've got some guys in funny-looking shoes. David Wright with some, I don't know, I've never seen him in those shoes before.
He's got spats, like Babar.
We got long pants if you need them. We got the stirrups from Murph. Mike Davis. No change.
See, now the last time the Mets played a day game, Davison due to have the pants hiked up the way David Wright always does, but you know, everybody's looking for an edge.
You got to have the right calves to raise the pants, Gary. You can't have those big monster calves. Here you go with the Lexus Mets defense. Lucas Duda back in the lineup. He was going to be given a day's rest in Washington because of a quad, but he's back in there. Lagares is getting a start against a tough right-hander. Marlon Byrd in right field. Right, Quintanilla, Murphy, and Davis sprinkled across the infield, and John Buck. Every day, John Buck behind the plate.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. Head to Citi Field's Fan Fest and step into the cage to test your luck against the Cholula Flamethrower. Available in 4 flavors. Cholula Hot Sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. You saw that note, by the way, on the defense. No unearned runs allowed. That doesn't mean that the Mets have played great defense behind Harvey. They certainly didn't in his last start down in Miami when Rick Ankiel allowed a ball to go over his head for a triple that scored 2 runs. Lucas Duda allowed a ball to go over his head. So hasn't exactly been flawless behind him. Juan Pierre will lead things off. The Marlins swept the Mets last weekend in Miami. Then they went to Philadelphia and got swept themselves the last 3 games. And like the Mets, they've had the last couple of days off. Miami was scheduled for an off day on Thursday, and then the rain out last night. But the skies have brightened, and we're set for baseball at Citi Field as Matt Harvey gets set to throw the first pitch to 35-year-old Juan Pierre. And it's a fastball in for a strike, nothing in 1.
Pierre has 125 games played against the Mets. He had Lucas on deck. 157 hits, 322 batting average.
Only one active player has more hits against the Mets than does Juan Pierre, and that's Jimmy Rollins. Ball and 2 strikes to Pierre, who's 5 for 11 against Harvey. You've got some Marlins who have had some rather inflated numbers against Matt in their 2 appearances against him. And a ground ball for the stirrup Murphy to handle, and there's the first down. Alfonso Marquez calling the balls and strikes today. Dan Bellino, a young umpire at first. Mike DeMuro, a second-generation big league umpire at second. And Ted Barrett is the crew chief working at third. Here's Ed Lucas, who made his major league debut against the Mets last weekend. Hit. In fact, he had 4 hits in the last game of that series and continued to hit in Philadelphia, so he's found his way into the lineup again. 8 for 16 to begin his belated big league career. 10 years in the minor leagues, a rookie at age 31.
Well, what do we got? 6 pitches here thrown by Harvey. 5 have been fastballs. That slider just fell off the table. I mean, he missed that by 2 feet.
And just off the corner with a slider. 1-2. Well, Matt threw a lot of changeups, so a lot of left-hand hitters in the game in Miami. Early on in this game, staying with the power stuff. And Lucas bounces that one foul. So a ball and 2 strikes.
The looked like a little two-seam fastball from Harvey. It was interesting before the game. Terry Collins has had to answer questions every day, at least 5. That's been the over and under on Zach Wheeler in his media scrum.
Curveball sits high. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That ball fooled the umpire because that was right off the table. You can see John Buck turning behind to talk to him. That is a strike. Fooled Lucas, and it fooled the umpire.
Now Lucas watches the slider off the plate, and a full count to the number 2 hitter with Derek Dietrich, a left-hand batter, waiting on deck. 1 out and nobody on, and the 3-2 from Harvey, and that's in for a call, strike 3. So he got the call on the slider. That's the second out of the inning. First strikeout for Harvey.
Well, it's so difficult if you're a hitter. If you're looking against Harvey, you can't be looking slider and the ball right at him, looking for a fastball, just bends over that inside corner. Now, I was saying before, Terry Collins said, you know, he gets all these reports on Harvey. Sorry, on Wheeler. But the reports they got last year on Harvey at this time were nothing like the reports on Harvey. Wheeler doesn't throw 97. Harvey's were very pedestrian as far as describing if he was going to be a great pitcher or not.
Derek Dietrich takes high for ball 1. Well, there's no question that Matt's velocity and really the quality of all his pitches is better at the big league level than it was in the minors. There's a nice curveball for a strike.
You know, he just took it up a notch. You know, he went from 94, 95 to 97. He's thrown more pitches over 95 after the 7th inning than anyone in baseball.
There's the Verizon Fios fastball velocity. Only 2 pitchers have had a faster average fastball than Harvey. And there's a nice looking slider. So his breaking stuff is working early in the game for him.
And his breaking stuff is exponentially better than it was last season when he came up. He's improved everywhere so far.
2-2 to Dietrich. And he leaves that one a little high, and it's 3-2. So back-to-back full counts for Harvey. Dietrich, who came up when Donovan Solano went on the DL, has found a home at second base for the Marlins. And he just got a piece of that slider, just hanging there at 3-2. That is now 12 starts into the season without a defeat, the first Met pitcher in history to get this far into a season without a loss. But 7 of his last 8 starts have resulted in no decisions, including that last one against Miami, in which he didn't pitch well but left with the lead. And Dietrich lifts one to shallow right. Murphy out, Bird in, and Bird calls to end the inning. Harvey has himself a 1-2-3 opening inning. Mets come to bat against Jose Fernandez when we come back.
Afternoon. Omar Quintanilla has been doing a fine job since being called up to replace Ruben Tejada in the starting lineup. Marlon Burt, 2 home runs in the Mets' last game on Wednesday. Another start for Juan Lagares against a right-hander, his 2nd in a row.
Well, Jose Fernandez, this will be his 12th start and his 4th against the Mets. He's also started 3 times against the Phillies. Toyota numbers for Jose Fernandez. And you know, the interesting thing about Fernandez is that against the NL East this year, he's 2-0, ERA real low, and 1-0 against the Mets.
Omar Quintanilla will lead things off. Quintanilla's 7th start since being called up. 10 for 20 over his last 5 games, and he takes a fastball for a strike from Fernandez. Jose Fernandez, just 20 years old, defected from Cuba when he was 15, went to high school in Tampa, #1 pick by the Marlins 2 years ago, the 4th overall pick in that 2011 draft. And Quintanilla pops one up on the infield. Echeverria, the shortstop, one-hands it for the first out.
There's, of course, Light Marlins defense. Juan Pierre, Coughlin, and Ozuna in the outfield. Polanco, Echeverria at shortstop. Dietrich and Lucas, and Brantley behind the plate. Ed Lucas played over 3,000 at bats in the minor leagues, over 900 games, only 35 at first base.
Here's Daniel Murphy, tied for the National League lead in doubles with 19. Coming off a 2-hit game in Washington on Wednesday when the Mets put up their first double-digit run total in almost 2 months. First pitch swinging, flies one to shallow left, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Pierre got a terrible start coming in on that ball, and Murphy has himself a pop fly single.
Well, at 35 years old, you've got to make sure you got a good jump, and just froze in his tracks initially, and then can't make up for it with the speed he once had. Just perfectly placed. No one gets that ball.
So 1 out and 1 on, and David Wright will come up. David's bat has cooled down significantly, hitting just 175 over his last 15 games. Mets are facing Fernandez for the 4th time. The first time was his major league debut. That was here at Citi Field back on April the 7th. He went 5 terrific innings in that game, struck out 8 in those 5 innings, and the Mets faced him twice down in Miami. He got better and better each time, culminating last Sunday with 7 scoreless innings in an 8-1 Marlins win. We thought it was kind of quick for a pitcher to be making his 4th start against a single team. So we did a little research, or at least the Elias folks did for us, as Wright takes a fastball that just misses. 2-0. 4 starts in his first 12 is a lot, but there was once a pitcher in 1991, Rael Cormier for the Cardinals, made 4 starts against the Mets in his first 8 career starts.
Raised the white flag.
Driven to right field, Ozuna with good jump gets back and grabs it for the 2nd out. Well, Ozuna impressive in every aspect. That's a ball that could have easily beaten him, but he got back quickly to grab it for the 2nd out.
Well, I've only seen this young man play a handful of games. He gets great jumps. He plays with a great spirit out there. And here, just a tiny leap to corral that line drive off the bat of David Wright.
There's going to be a time in the not too distant future, it appears, when Giancarlo Stanton is ready to return, and that could be as soon as Monday. He's been out with a hamstring injury for more than a month. That the Marlins are going to probably play Ozuna in center field, and you can see how his skill set would play in center. Here's Lucas Duda with 2 out and a runner aboard. When we were in Miami last weekend, they were hoping that by sometime in the next couple of weeks they would have had Stanton and right, Ozuna in center, and another terrific prospect, Christian Yelich, in left. But Yelich has had a setback, an abdominal injury down in Double-A, so he's going to be pushed back a few weeks from making his debut. But they've got talent coming. A young team that's ditched most of their veterans and has restocked their farm system as a result.
Well, a handful of guys in spring training. Yelich was one of the most outstanding of all those prospects. He had a home run in Port St. Lucie to left center against the wind, left-handed hitter. So,
you know, it's funny when you look at the Mets' future and the Marlins' future. The Mets have this big line of pitching prospects on the horizon. The Marlins have a whole bunch of position player prospects on the horizon and not a whole lot of pitching in their system. Duda fouls the curveball off. Those are some of the Marlins prospects entering the season. Of course, Fernandez is already here. Echeverria, Ozuna, Dietrich, all have been called up. Marisnik is one of the players they got from Toronto in that 12-player trade they made. He's supposed to be a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. We saw him in spring training. So you see most of their prospects, their remaining prospects, are on the position player side, where the Mets are the flip side. Maybe some deals to be made. Fastball just misses 2-1. Of course, everybody has restocked their farm system to a certain extent this week with the first-year player draft. And the Mets, for the third straight year, taking a high school position player with their first pick. Dominic Brown, a first baseman from the LA area. Foul back. Did I say Brown? That was being
Smith.
hopeful.
Yeah.
If Dominic Smith can be what Dom Brown has become. Dominic Smith, the #1 pick. Andrew Church, a high school pitcher, went second. And down there on the lower left, the name might sound familiar, from the University of Connecticut, L.J. Mazzilli, son of Lee.
The whole family's over the moon. Fantastic for LJ.
That's a great thing, right?
Very offensive-minded second baseman, a lot of speed.
Dominic Smith, the Mets' first pick, just 17 years old.
I mean, they've mentioned the Strawberry name. They've mentioned Palmero name as far as a sweet swing.
I got to see a little video on him, and he's a big fan of Robinson Cano's, and you can see a little bit of that in his swing, too.
That'll work, and it does work.
2-2 to Duda with Murphy at first and 2 out, and the curveball spins outside. 3-2.
Well, there's been a couple pitches close that Fernandez has thought have been strikes. This little backdoor curveball, I think it went around the plate. That's something that you don't want to do early in your career. You start to run off because the umpires will see it.
Now Murphy gets set to run. 3-2 to Duda, and a check swing foul.
What happens is when you're a young player, you don't want to argue with the umpires when you're at the plate. If you're a young pitcher, you don't want to show up the umpires because they are looking to see, trying to really gauge what kind of player you are. Are you one of those guys that's always going to be moaning and groaning about calls, or are you going to be one of those guys that shakes it off and makes the next pitch?
Duda cracks one toward the middle, and that gets past Dietrich for a base hit. Murphy goes first to third, and the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 down. Dietrich shaded over toward the hole, as you would expect against Duda, and Duda beat him back up the middle.
Well, comes at him with that sinking fastball to Duda. And you said, Gary, playing him to pull. Dietrich doesn't have a ton of range, more of an offensive-minded second baseman. The ball gets under his glove.
So now runners at the corners with 2 out, and Marlon Byrd, who had 2 home runs against Washington on Wednesday in the Mets' last game, has been swinging one of the hotter bats in the Mets lineup of late, and so his playing time is once again on the increase. 8 home runs now on the year for Marlon, 28 driven in. And he takes a fastball strike.
Interesting watching the fastball of Fernandez and Harvey. 2 different fastballs, right? Harvey's more true, rides up higher in the strike zone a lot. Fernandez throws more of a 2-seamer. It runs back into the right-hander.
And Bird bounces the breaking ball foul, and it's 0-2. Ike Davis would be next. Fernandez pitching on a couple of extra days of rest. Was scheduled to go last night. Coming off 7 scoreless against the Mets in his last start. Ahead on the count on Bird, 0-2. And Marlin takes a fastball right down the middle for strike 3 call. So Fernandez has his first strikeout, and the Mets strand a couple in the opening inning. Interactive with SNY Game Day on SNY.TV, featuring pitch-by-pitch coverage, player cards, and in-depth stats. Check out SNY Game Day during every Mets game, now on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Marcell Ozuna leads off the second inning for the Marlins against Matt Harvey. Ozuna had a very impressive series against the Mets down in Miami. 9 for 19 in that series. He's just 22 years old. Harvey starts him off with a curveball that misses for ball 1.
The Marlins have 5 guys 24 years or older in their lineup today. 24 or younger. Sorry about that. Younger.
Ball and a strike to Ozuna, who hit that 2-run triple against Harvey in the first inning of the game last Sunday. Chris Coghlan on deck, then Placido Polanco here in the second. Little number out to Murphy at second. He waits on it and throws out Ozuna one away. Ozuna flying down the line. Everything we've seen him do has been all out. It's amazing what the infusion of a young player will do to your lineup. We've seen it this last week with the Dodgers and Yasiel Puig.
You saw it last year when Trout came up for the Angels. You know, changed that entire team around. It's almost like you have a team feeling kind of bad about themselves. You know, we got off to a slow start, and this young man's coming up, and what's he saying to himself? I don't care what you're playing. I'm coming up here to try to win a job. And so far, so good.
Here's Chris Coghlan, who's been swinging the bat very well, maybe the best since his Rookie of the Year season 4 years ago. And another first pitch curveball from Harvey for a strike. Coghlan at 283 for the year. And he's probably going to have playing time taken away when Giancarlo Stanton comes back. But Coghlan reasserting himself as a guy who can be a useful big leaguer.
Well, I think then it's going to come up to can he lead off if Pierre continues to hit in the 230s, although Pierre has hit better of late.
Coghlan was a very tough guy for Harvey to get out last week. Went 3 for 3 against him. Ronnie, what about the dynamics of facing a team for the second straight time, especially for a young pitcher who's never really done it before?
It's hard. It really is, especially if you don't have a history of pitching well against the team. You start to doubt yourself a little bit.
On the inside corner as he paints with the fastball for strike 3. 97 miles an hour from Harvey for his second strikeout.
Gary, in '86, I started 3 games in 10 days against the Red Sox, and I'll tell you, by the 3rd game against a veteran team like them, I was like running out of answers and how to get them out. And I think, although for Harvey, and I talked a little to him about it, and he really, he takes things as real as challenges. He was like, they haven't seen me at my best yet. I want them to see me at my best. So that's what he's trying to show them today.
And so far so good as Placido Polanco takes a strike.
But your thought is that, I haven't had good games against you, but I have not been at my best. If I pitch the way I can pitch, you're not going to be able to handle me.
Right charges and makes the running toss to get Polanco. 6 up and 6 down for Harvey to start the afternoon. No score as we go to the bottom of the second. Things are looking awfully springtime-like in the village.
They are, right? You're doing pretty sweet if you got a little brownstone around the corner there.
You're doing very, very well. Should have invested 40 years ago.
That's right.
Ike Davis at 166 for the year. And Jose Fernandez falls behind him 2-0 as we start the bottom of the second. Fernandez worked around a couple of hits in the opening inning. Davis, Buck, and Lagares for the Mets in the second. And there's a strike. 2-1. Jose Fernandez wearing number 16. Pitching in Flushing. Hard throwing 20-year-old. Certainly brings back memories. Here's a little bit of tribute going on there with Fernandez wearing 16 for Doc Gooden. And of course the Mets have Rick Ankiel, who took 16 when he joined the Mets, because when he was growing up in Port St. Lucie he used to go and watch Doc pitch in spring training.
Right.
3-2 to Davis.
Doc, of course, when he was 20 years old, 4 losses that year to go along with 24 wins.
Davis lifts one toward the left field line. Pierre over near the sidewall and runs out of room. But those are not the only number 16s being worn in tribute today. Second base umpire Mike DeMuro wearing number 16 on his sleeve in tribute to his dad, Lou DeMuro, who was a major league umpire.
Got to be something, right?
Yeah. So there are 16s abounding today. And every one seems to be a tribute. I have not gotten to Doc's book yet, but it is getting rave reviews.
Well, I'm on the next road trip. I know you guys find that shocking.
Davis draws a leadoff walk.
I'm going to bring it on that road trip. There's Doc. Jersey.
I just finished Howie's book, Howie Rose. Well worth reading.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe I'll bring both.
Put it in the book.
Put it in the book? Yeah, of course.
The book.
Of course. But I was thinking that, for me, when the 86 books come out, whoever is the author of them, there's a quick read and a slow read. The quick read, just to make sure that I want to do the slow read. In case I'm mentioned.
Yeah, I understand. Here's John Buck, dropped to 7th in the order. And he takes the curveball outside. Buck had a home run against Fernandez earlier this year, but things have not gone well for John over the last 5 weeks. Since the 3rd of May, he's hitting just 163 after that very fast start. Juan Lagares waits on deck. And he lines one. Echeverria makes the grab, and Davis scrambles back to first. So 1 out and 1 on.
Well, good at bat here. We've talked about it that in the first month of the season, when he got most of those numbers, John Buck was going up the middle, going to the right side. So even though that's an out, that's a real productive at bat, something to work on. And Ike freeze and then back. Good base run.
I often wonder now with Buck, and it's still relatively early in the year. It's only the 2nd week in June, and the Mets they've had more time off than they would have liked because of all the rainouts. But Buck has played virtually every day. So how much is the last 5 weeks and his numbers, which we just documented, a result of just regression toward the mean, and how much of it is him just playing too many innings?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, of course. I think that it's interesting he's had these last 2 days off. His first at bat is a BB up the middle. But also, we're talking about a guy that his last great season offensively was 4 or 5 years ago, and that he hit below 200 last season, and he struggled to have a high average despite having some power.
Juan Lagares takes a 2-0 curveball for a strike. There are the lifetime numbers for Buck. So, when he was hitting close to 300 and hitting 10 home runs the first month, that was a great month, but certainly you didn't expect him to carry on that pace all year.
My feeling is that from watching the games that he's played, that I think Anthony Recker has deserved to play a little more during the week, and I think that'll make Anthony better, and certainly will make John Buck better.
Certainly when the year began, the hope was that by mid-season Travis d'Arnaud would be ready, and so Buck's playing time would diminish. But with d'Arnaud still wearing a boot on his foot, that's not going to happen for quite some time. He'll get back to playing in a month or so, and he probably won't make it to the big leagues till late this year, if at all.
I would think that if he made the big leagues, he would have to be in September after his season's done, because he needs to play every day.
2-2 to Lagares, who had a 3-hit game on Wednesday in Washington. He lines this one into left center for a base hit. Davis heads to third, cut off deep in the gap by Pierre, and Davis is being waved home. Echeverria makes the relay throw to the plate. Davis slides in safely with the first run of the game.
An RBI double for Juan Lagares chases Ike Davis all the way home from first, and it's 1-0 New York.
Less than a week ago, Jordan Zimmerman was pitching for the Washington Nationals. Terry Collins said, I don't want to start him against a big right-hander with good breaking ball. Well, in a week, he's changed his mind, and he's put out Lagares against that good breaking ball of Fernandez. He hangs one, and he splits the defense. Good job by Pierre to get to the ball, get it in. But when you watch Ike Davis here, he's running hard the entire way. And remember earlier this week, he picked up Tuffle and kind of stopped on his own. This time he kept his speed up. Was still running hard through the coach, and that's why he scored.
And a great call by Tuffle. He knows that Juan Pierre has a weak arm, and that's one of the reasons why he sent Ike in that spot. And it pays off in the first run of the game. Now Matt Harvey bats with a runner in scoring position, and Matt laces one foul. Harvey 3 for 24 at the plate. So the leadoff walk hurts Fernandez, as Davis has come around to score. Just the third RBI for Juan Lagares, and if he hits, he will earn more and more playing time. I mentioned this is his second straight start against a right-hander. He had been platooning with Rick Ankiel since Ankiel got here. There's a good swing by Harvey, and he fouls it back.
See, what you really want to do is when you get this relay, you want to stand up straight and throw a BB. But you know, Juan Pierre has never had a very good arm. It's not that great now, and that allowed Davis to score the run.
Well, Echeverria did all he could. He's got a laser beam for an arm. And Harvey goes down on the fastball. Second strikeout for Fernandez, and the second out of the inning.
You know, the one play they could have made there, if Coughlin could have got there quicker, Coughlin to get to the ball, he would have got it in a little better. That's the little nuances that, as an outfield team, you can try to do to stop the runs.
So now Quintanilla bats with 2 out. Omar popped to short his first time up. He was 2 for 3 against Fernandez when they met last weekend. And pops this one up into left field. And Pierre right there. And that retires the side. But the Mets cash a run. Juan Lagares with an RBI double gives Matt Harvey the lead, 1-0 as we go to the third. We go to the third inning. The view from the High Line over on the west side. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule, presented by the Hospital for Special Surgery. You can listen to all Mets games on Sports Radio 66 and Sports Radio 101.9 FM WFAN. Series with the Marlins, rain shortened, wraps up tomorrow afternoon. Then another off day Last thing the Mets need on Monday before the Cardinals and Cubs come in next week. Rob Brantley leads off against Matt Harvey in the third. Harvey's faced 6 and retired 6 so far this afternoon. Brantley, the catcher, hits one up the middle, and there's the first Marlin base runner of the afternoon. So Brantley on the first pitch he sees leads off with a base hit.
A little hanging slider there by Harvey right in the middle of the plate.
So Brantley aboard, and now Echeverria, the number 8 hitter, who has struggled at the plate this year. Also missed some time on the disabled list. And he takes a fastball strike. Echeverria, part of that big deal that the Marlins made last offseason with Toronto. Jose Fernandez, pretty good hitting pitcher, waiting on deck. Mets have already seen what he has to offer at the plate. And Echeverria hits one down the right field line, back toward the corner. Bird, and he's able to run it down. Nice play by Marlin. And back to first goes Brantley, one away.
The hard part for a right fielder here is judging where that ball is going to come down. Is the wall going to come into play? See that little hesitation there by Marlin? Wanted to make sure he timed it so his speed wasn't such he would run into the wall. Fine catch.
First thing he did when he spun was to look at first base to see whether Brantley had taken any liberties. So maybe he could make a Yasiel Puig play.
That's right.
How many times has his name come up already this afternoon? Lunged at by Fernandez as he misses on the bunt attempt. Now, there's no guarantee he's going to be sacrificing here. The last game he faced the Mets, 7 scoreless innings, 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI. First pitcher to do that, first rookie pitcher since Jason Jennings. Remember him when he pitched a shutout against the Mets in his debut and hit a home run for the Rockies? Fouled off. And so 0-2 to Fernandez.
I thought Jennings was going to have a long career. He was a big, sturdy kid, sinker slider, which would have made him perfect for Colorado. He had some arm injuries early in his career. Doesn't everyone at some point?
It's part of the business, isn't it?
Right.
Still showing bunt on 0-2. And he bunts it foul, strike 3. So Fernandez is a strikeout victim, the third for Harvey this afternoon, 2 out of the inning. Certainly looks better swinging than bunting.
I guess if you like to hit a lot, if you're a pitcher and just never got the bunt down, I guess they have to let you hit at some point, right?
Sounds like a strategy.
Right.
So now Juan Pierre with 2 out and a runner at first. Pierre grounded out to Murphy his first time up. Coming into today, Juan Pierre's batting average at Citi Field for his career, .405. That's how much of a pest he's been against the Mets. But first pitch swinging here, flies one out to Duda, and that retires the side. So after the leadoff hit, Harvey threw only 5 more pitches, and he gets the side out. 1-0 Mets in the middle of the third. Wednesday, the first 25,000 fans attending the 7:10 game against the Cardinals will receive a Mets Collector's Cup, courtesy of Premio. Visit Mets.com for your tickets. Danny Murphy leads off the home third for the Mets, who cashed a run against Jose Fernandez in the second, which puts them one ahead of what they did the last time they faced Fernandez last Saturday. Murphy had a bloop single in the first inning that fell into left field. It'll be Murphy, Wright, and Duda for the Mets in the home third. And the curveball from Fernandez in for a strike. Now, you like to refer to that pitch more as a slurve than a curve?
Yeah, he, you know, if you picture a clock, you have different break. You have that real over the top, it goes 12 to 6, that kind of curve. But when you look at it from Fernandez, good fastball there inside, is that it breaks, if you look at the clock, breaks from like 2 to 8. It's that kind of break. Comes straight across the plate.
Now, is there a difference in how that pitch is released?
You try to stay on the outside of the ball, but the other thing is that your arm is not on, you know, your fingers are not on top of the ball, they're on the right side of the ball. That's the difference.
So it's kind of halfway between a slider and a curve, and thus the name.
The slurve, yeah, exactly. It's a the problem with it is that it can be a pitch. If I'm trying to think of the guys that had a great slurve. David Cohn had a great slurve. Dave Steve had a great slurve. There haven't been that many guys that have had great ones, put away kind of slurves. This young man might have one.
Is that the kind of pitch you learn by accident?
It's just innate. It's just part of your ability. Can't really teach it because what happens with the great ones is that they get so much torque and so much spin that it goes straight for a while, because they also throw 90 plus. You have to be able to throw 90 plus to do this. They let it go and it kind of spins so quick that it doesn't catch the gravity or the air. And then once it slows down a little, that's when it starts catching and start turning. So the optical illusion is it's a fastball out of the hand and it makes a left turn. It's an unbelievable pitch. Like I said, few can master.
2-2 to Murphy. And he fouls off the changeup.
I just didn't realize that. You know, I think I was just concentrating on this young man's repertoire, what he had. Wasn't looking at kind of the body type. I watched him walk out to the bullpen today. I didn't realize, you know, Fernandez is a long name. He's still got plenty of shirt on his shoulder, the 50 letters. He's just a big kid.
6'2", 240 pounds. Murphy lines one to left field, but this time Pierre gets over to grab it. One away.
Crazy in baseball, right? You pop one up, you get a base hit, you get a lenient, you get an out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I was talking about, okay, so curveball, talking about on top of the ball. When you let go of a curveball, you want your arm and to be on top of the ball. If you're throwing a slurve, you're not going to be on top of it. You're going to be to the side of it, on the right side of it, letting it go that way. And what happens, what I was saying, for the really great guys that throw hard, it'll spin so fast that it won't catch the air, and then it'll slow, and boom, it goes that way. Most guys can't do that. It's just very difficult.
Kind of like throwing a hook with a bowling ball.
Same thing. The real good bowlers, that ball goes straight for half the lane and then starts to make the turn.
David Wright hit a deep drive to right his first time up that Ozuna was able to run down. Over the last week or so, David has hit a bunch of balls well to right field that have resulted in outs, which, you know, in terms of results is not great, but in terms of process is probably exactly where he wants to be.
Well, it's interesting. Before these guys get on a roll, they'll have 4 or 5 games where they'll go 1 for 3 with a walk. They'll hit a couple balls hard, and then the next thing you know, they get those 3-hit games, 4-hit games.
Drives this one deep to center field, chasing Coghlan back, and he runs that one down. So David's hit a couple of balls well to the outfield for a couple of outs.
There's nothing more frustrating for a hitter than to hit 2 line drives and be 0 for 2. But Coghlan is one of the outfielders that he has speed, but not lots of speed. So he plays very deep. He made this play look pretty easy considering where David hit that.
It's not a bad pitch either. 2 out and nobody on. Now Lucas Duda, who grounded a single into right center his first time up. Fernandez trying for his first 1-2-3 inning of the afternoon. He certainly looked more hittable today than he did when the Mets faced him last week. Behind on Duda 2-0. He's walked 1. He struck out 2.
Interesting. Chuck Hernandez, their pitching coach, outstanding pitching coach, Tigers, now Marlins. He's doing a couple things that he did not do in his other starts against the Mets. He's overthrowing, he's flying open with that front side, and I'm sure that he's seeing it, and we'll discuss it with him in between innings. It's almost like he's, I don't know, he's maxing out every pitch, and we didn't see that the last time. Usually he keeps himself pretty well in check for a 20-year-old.
See if Duda is going to be swinging 3-0 here with 2 out and nobody on. He takes inside, ball 4, so Duda on base for the second time. The second walk given up by Fernandez. So now Marlon Byrd, who took a call third strike his first time up. Fernandez has averaged just over a strikeout per inning this year. Coming into the day, 60 strikeouts and 59 in the third innings. Only 4 pitchers in Major League history have averaged a strikeout per inning before they turn 21. Kerry Wood, Dwight Gooden, Bob Feller, and the wild card in the group, Oliver Perez.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that first year with the Pirates when he was just 20 years old. He was a 200-plus strikeout guy that year.
Specialty lefty now, right, in Seattle.
And doing a great job. Who knew? Fernandez ahead on Byrd 0-2. He got Marlin to take a fastball down the middle for strike 3 last time. It wasn't going to happen again. There you see the graphic portrayal of what we were just talking about.
Look at the fight. 276.
Well, that was the rookie record. And he was only 19. Curveball bounced foul. Nice grab, Timmy.
And Dwight didn't turn 21 till when? November?
After the 85 season.
After the 85 season. So add both of them there. Wow.
Well, you could throw in his age 18 season, by the way. I know it was Lynchburg, but he struck out 300 in 191 innings.
How about going 191 innings?
As an 18-year-old.
That would get someone fired today.
Curveball sits inside, 1-2.
It's interesting to watch Rob Brantley. He's a young guy behind the plate. He's got a lot of movement. You know, Sandy Alomar Jr., when he was here coaching, used to always talk about being very smooth and quiet behind the plate. Brantley's still learning the position, still moving around a lot. Sometimes you can lose a pitch.
Byrd lifts one to right, chasing Ozuna back, and he gets there to end the inning. So 3 drives to the outfield, all caught. Fernandez shaking his head. Doesn't have his best stuff today, but he's only down 1-0 after 3. fourth inning at Citi Field. Mets allowed just one base runner, a leadoff single to Rob Brantley in the third. Ed Lucas leads off in the fourth. Lucas took a call third strike his first time up. And Harvey gets the curveball over for a strike. Lucas, Dietrich, and Ozuna for the Marlins, 3 rookies in a row in the top of the fourth. And Lucas, an Ivy Leaguer out of Dartmouth. Always nice to have one of the Ivy Leaguers join the parade.
Represent.
Slowly hit right, has to make a quick toss, and he gets him. One away. Looked like David was undecided, bare hand or glove that time, and decided he had enough time to use the glove.
You know, he made the right choice. Whenever you're going to your right, I think it's fine to go with the bare hand. If you're going to your left, it's better to use your glove.
And Lucas not all that fleet, and so David was able to throw him out with ease.
You know, if you're going to your right, you can get the 90-degree angle where your hand is fully open. If you're going to your left, you're only going to have part of your hand ready to grasp the ball.
Here's Dietrich, who flied out to right his first time up. And he smacks one into right field for a base hit. So the Marlins, swinging early in the count against Harvey, have their second hit. A one-out single for Dietrich.
You know what's interesting is that the Marlins obviously are trying to first pitch fastball hit off Harvey. And I think the first reaction you have as a pitcher is, boy, I guess I can't throw first pitch fastballs. That's the wrong way to think. You can really start just making a little better pitch on that first pitch. They'll get themselves out. You'll get some early pop-ups, ground balls.
So here's Ozuna, who grounded out his first time up. There's Tino Martinez, the Marlins hitting coach.
He knew a little bit about formulating the game plan before he went to the plate. Great player.
A little bit about finding the upper deck. Fastball for a strike to Ozuna.
I mean, what else would you want? He was a great team player, great hitter, world champion, guy who could play in the clutch. Just about everything you want in a player. Good defensive player.
You take that out of Dom Smith, right?
Yeah.
The next Tino Martinez.
Can we get it right now? I saw the same tapes I think that you saw, and it was just the like majestic home runs he was hitting. I don't know whether it was batting practice or a game, but
1-1 to Ozuna. Buck setting up inside, and Harvey missing away. 2 balls and a strike. And I think if you ask Matt, he'd tell you there's been far too much of that in his starts against the Marlins this year. Just not having the greatest of command. Whereas we've seen him pinpoint on other occasions. Some of the particulars on Ozuna making a splash at age 22.
That's where you're going to get Ozuna out. When you watch his approach, he's wide open, but when he steps, he's not completely closed. So that outside low pitch, now listen, outside low pitch beats just about everyone when it's like that pitch. But the outside part and down is the pitch that's going to give him trouble until he gets that front foot fully closed.
Up and in with a fastball on a full count.
Brantley, we know is Dietrich, we know is got a little bit of speed. You could think about it.
Why not? Coughlin on deck. 3rd full count of the day for Harvey. Dietrich runs. Ozuna lines one, base hit. Dietrich going first to third, and so the Marlins have something working. 1st and 3rd and 1 out. So by putting Dietrich in motion, they get that tying run to third base with 1 away.
Good hitting there by Ozuna. Let's see where this pitch is from the side. It's up. It's about thigh high. It is a little outside, but the problem is it's a little up. If it's down, probably gets him out. But the ball is up.
Murph trying the deke at second base. Nobody dekes more than Murph.
He dekes himself half the time. Just interesting on 3-2 pitches now. If there's been 3 or 4 of them, Matt has chosen to go with breaking pitch almost every time.
Now Coughlin trying to get that tying run home from third. Struck out looking his first time up. Dietrich at third, Ozuna at first. Ozuna can run. 3 stolen bases without being caught. Matt's done an awfully good job controlling the running game for a young pitcher. And comes inside to Coghlan and falls behind 2-0.
A lot of times that's the last thing that comes as Matt wants a new baseball, throws it out, is that they're only worried about pitches they're throwing, the hitters, never worry about all the little things in the game. He certainly has those down too.
It's part of being a coach's son.
Yeah, right.
Well, the Marlins have only driven in 43% this year. It was 40 though before they faced the Mets last weekend. So it's gotten better. Hit out to right. That should get the run in. Dietrich tags at third. Bird's throw will go to second as Dietrich comes home with the tying run. Sacrifice fly for Chris Coghlan, and it's a 1-1 game.
Well, sometimes there's nothing you can do as a pitcher. You get yourself behind the 8 ball. You get behind a hitter, and you got to really challenge him, and that's what Matt did, and Coghlan was up to the task. Fastball down the middle. Got it off a little off the end of the bat. Good swing.
10th RBI for Coghlan. So the Marlins have gotten even. And now Harvey will face Placido Polanco with 2 out and a runner at first. Polanco grounded out to third base his first time up. And takes a fastball for a strike. Polanco now 37 years old. He's begun to have his playing time diminish somewhat as the Marlins make the transition to a younger team. And a pickoff try, and Ozuna is nailed. And Davis chases him down to end the inning. Now Ozuna was going, and Harvey picked him off. It'll go as a 1-3 caught stealing to end the inning. But the Marlins get even on Coghlan's sac fly to tie it at 1. He ran down Marcell Ozuna.
Ozuna has 3 stolen bases to try and get his 4th. Watch Ike. He misses with a tag. He almost went and grabbed Ozuna. Said, hey, wait, stay here. But finally puts the tag on.
Now, it's a really good thing that he was not able to grab him with his bare hand. That would have been obstruction and he would have been safe at second.
I can see why you would react like that, though.
Hey, come back here.
Yeah, come on.
Hey, I'm talking to you.
You're an easy out now. Come on.
Davis walked and scored the Mets run in the second inning. Raced all the way from first on Juan Lagares' double. Matt Harvey now even in this game, looking to beat the Marlins for the first time in his 3rd try against them. John Buck on deck, and then Juan Lagares for the Mets in the fourth. Each team with a run on 3 hits. And the curveball spins in, strike 3 call. So Davis caught looking, 3rd strikeout for Jose Fernandez.
That's a slurve we were talking about before. Starts outside, bends back over the middle of the play. I think I thought that was high and broke a little late, but not agreed with Marquez.
1 out and nobody on. John Buck coming up. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Every day with the starting pitcher, John Buck has a little sit down, maybe 10 minutes or so to go over the game plan. And that meeting can entail a lot of different things, guys. I watched his meeting in Washington with Sean Markham that lasted about 10 or 15 minutes, took place at 4 o'clock for the game. Today at home, usually you don't see those meetings. They're kind of behind closed doors. There's a few more places for the players to hide here at home. But I asked John for a little insight about what goes on in those meetings and how the two will sit down and kind of formulate their idea of what they want to do against the hitters ahead. And on Thursday, he gave me the example, or a couple of examples. He said, here's how it started. And we go in. First thing I bring up is Jason Worth. And ironically, we both went back and looked at video from 2010 when we were teammates and looked at how we attacked Worth. I had a plan how I wanted to get him out. Markham looked at the same video, agreed. So we started there. He said, but it's not just simple stuff. We'll look at in-depth how I want to attack certain hitters. I explained to Sean what I like to do off of the changeup against certain batters, and I reminded him of some things that I like deep in counts against certain players, because quite honestly, sometimes I'm focused on a few different things and I want the pitcher to know my idea. Same thing though, same time, I want the pitcher to express to me what he wants to do. So if he disagrees during a game, he changes his mind, really he's got to throw the pitch with conviction. But a lot goes into that 10-minute session before each game, guys.
Curveball, strike 3 called. So Fernandez, with back-to-back strikeouts, gets Davis and Buck both looking with that slurve.
It's just a nasty pitch to left-handers, as we saw against Ike, but even nastier against right-handers. Watch the front side of Buck. See how kind of that front shoulder just opens up just a tiny bit, which gets you off the pitch.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Juan Lagares, who drove in the Mets run with a double to left center in the second. And that first pitch, breaking ball in for a strike, and Fernandez feeling awfully good about that pitch now. So did you and your catchers have meetings right before each start, or is that a relatively recent phenomenon?
No, I think that's happened forever, to tell you the truth. You know, you can go back all the way to when the ball was put in your locker. You didn't know you were pitching until the ball was put in your locker, and then you'd have to go seek out and find the catcher. Gary Carter definitely would meet with you, would not take 10 minutes, take 5 minutes to go over the lineup. But you know, you really went with what Kidd was going to call. You knew the National League as well as anyone.
Strike 3 called. Well, 3 batters, 3 call third strikes, all with the breaking ball. Quite an inning for Fernandez. 1-1 after 4. you can put in that 0 for the Mets in the bottom of the 4th just to complete the 4th, which would get us to the 5th inning recap. In any event, Mets scored a run in the 2nd on the Juan Lagares RBI double. Chris Coughlin's sac fly tied it, and the pitchers have been in command other than that.
Go ahead. Don't be afraid. Throw it in there.
It's like magic.
Beautiful.
How did that happen? Very impressive.
Don't be shy.
Monday, get a breakdown of this weekend's series against the Marlins, including the bottom of the 4th inning, plus a preview of Tuesday's Mets-Cardinals opener with live reports from Citi Field and insider info on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, Monday at 5, only on SNY.
Let's see what Harvey can do to the same part of the lineup that Fernandez just did to the Mets.
Polanco was at the plate when Ozuna was picked off to end the 4th inning. And Harvey starts him off with a curveball for ball 1. Polanco 0 for 1, grounded out his first at bat. Brantley and Echeverria to follow. And it's bounced toward the hole. Backhanded by Quintanilla. 1 out. So Polanco retired. Your City probables for tomorrow's game. That is not going to be Sean Markham. It's going to be Jonathan Neese for the Mets tomorrow. Markham has been pushed back till Tuesday against the Cardinals. Tom Kohler, who went to Stony Brook, will be on the mound for the Marlins.
Joe Nathan?
Yeah.
Stony Brook? Okay.
In fact, Joe contributed a big chunk of money so that they could
Joe Nathan is class act.
Build a better baseball facility there in Stony Brook. Echeverria on deck. Rob Brantley had the first hit against Harvey, a single up the middle to start the 4th inning. We have the revised City probables for tomorrow's game.
That was the same button as 0. It just comes up a little longer.
You know, it's like the umpires. We just want to get the call right.
Yes.
That one sailed on Harvey, and it's 2-1.
If I had to say, how would you judge Harvey's demeanor this afternoon? It's like frustrated, you know.
And Brantley has his second hit of the afternoon. So he's 2 for 2. That's the 4th hit off Matt Harvey.
And listen, he's only given up a run. He's pitching excellent, but you know, he seeks perfection, and he hasn't gotten it yet.
And I think more so today because of the way the Marlins handled him last Sunday. So he's got a little bit of an edge to him today. 1 out and 1 on. Here's Echeverria, who flied out to right field his first time. Slow ground ball, tough play. Harvey makes the wide throw, and Ike saves him an error by scooping that ball up. One that Matt should have put in his pocket. And Davis made a fine play to keep that ball from going into right field. So it's an infield hit for Echeverria, and the Marlins have 2 on.
You want your third baseman yelling, you know, hold it, hold it. But he doesn't, lets it go. And just an excellent play by Ike to get off the bag and somehow get a glove on this. I mean, he had to go, what, 4 or 5 feet over there to make the play.
Well, the pitcher Fernandez comes up. Failed to get a bunt down his last time up. Showing bunt already. As the corners get set to charge, and he bunts and misses strike 1.
He just keeps throwing that slider to him away, and he keeps kind of reaching for it, jabbing at it.
And now the third base coach, Joe Espada, is going to come down and have a chat with Fernandez. Perhaps it's time to take the bunt off.
The next option will be smoke signals at some point. I mean,
I wonder if he missed a sign that last pitch, whether he was supposed to swing away. After all, he's had a lot more success doing that than he has trying to bunt the ball today. He gets this one down. Harvey wants to go to third with it. Gets the force there. Relay by Wright, though, not nearly in time. So they pick off the lead runner. 1-5 as Brantley is erased for the second out.
Isn't it amazing the little things you can do if you are pitcher on the mound is also one of your 9 athletes on the field, you can get the kind of outs that can make the difference in a ball game. Fernandez happy just to get this ball down. Problem is, it's right back to Harvey. Aggressive play, but the right play. David tries to double up at first, but didn't work.
So now 2 on and 2 out. You got Juan Pierre at the plate. Now, Pierre is a guy who's not going to hit the ball over outfielders' heads very often, so they can play awfully shallow, which makes it not a guarantee that you're going to get a run home on a 2-out hit. There's a call strike to Pierre, 0-1.
It happens a lot of times when you go to pick up the baseball, your eyes will come away from the ball, but he tried to go barehanded, but luckily had the glove behind it, kind of shoveled it into his glove to make that play.
Almost like he intended to pick it up barehanded, but had the glove there only as a backup.
What happened is that he got a little too far away from the ball. There was someone who taught me early in my career, try to step on the ball with your right foot. That'll get your hand right to the baseball. And people at home, you'll never step on it. Don't worry.
Two and one to Pierre, who's grounded out and flied out today. And Pierre takes the fastball high, and now it's 3-1.
Well, there's really nothing you can do here. What you have to do with Pierre, like you said, Gary, he's not a power hitter. You want to work down and away, let him hit the ball away, and you just hope that dude is shallow enough to keep the run coming home if he singles.
Echeverria, the runner at second. And Pierre hits it up the middle, of base hit, charged by Lagares. Echeverria being waved home. Lagares with the throw to the plate, a perfect one on the hop, and Echeverria is a dead duck. Well, that's the advantage of being able to play your outfield shallow with Pierre at the plate and Lagares throwing a one-hop strike to Buck. And Echeverria out by a mile for the 3rd out of the inning. So that gets Harvey through the top of the 5th. Juan Lagares, we've seen what he can do with the glove and shows what he can do with his arm. He can't throw it any better, and Echeverria had no chance. Still tied. because of Juan Lagares' throw to the plate.
Well, Gary, you set it up perfectly that they could play shallow, but you still have to be able to charge the ball, make the accurate throw, and have something on it. And that's what Lagares did. John Buck did a nice job of getting in front of that plate, really giving Ozuna no place to go. His only option really would have been to run over Buck. He chose to go on the outside, and just an easy play.
Joe Espada aggressively sending Echeverria home. In retrospect, maybe not such a great decision. Matt Harvey leads off for the Mets as we go to the bottom of the fifth, and we're very pleased to have Michael Milken joining us in the booth, representing the Prostate Cancer Foundation. Every year around Father's Day, Michael joins us to talk about the fight against prostate cancer. Welcome, Michael.
It's good to be here. It's great to see the two of you, and this is our 18th season and $40 million raised from home runs.
Tell us how the program works again, Michael.
The program started 18 years ago with a young owner named Fred Wilpon that had this idea: take Dad to the ball game, remind him to get checked for prostate cancer, and it's become the #1 awareness program in baseball. And as a result, there are selected games. This one is a special bonus game, but all the games beginning on the 11th to Father's Day on the 16th, and people pledge money for home runs hit. We average about 130. We're down a little bit from the year 2000, when a lot more home runs were hit.
Maria throws that Harvey one away.
And you can go to PCF.org, standing for the Prostate Cancer Foundation.org, and you can learn a lot about nutrition. But the best results in these 18 years is we've reduced the death rate from prostate cancer from projected levels by 50%. Almost 500,000 men who the government was projecting were going to pass away from prostate cancer can all be here and watch the Mets play the Marlins today. So it's made a huge difference from that standpoint.
And I know it's going to mean a lot to me. One of my good friends just found out this week that he has prostate cancer, and you know, his future looks a lot brighter because of this program in the last 18 years.
Not only the early detection, but we have had 6 new drugs approved, more than any other cancer, for prostate cancer. And a lot of that money's come right from this program. And particularly for New York, every single home run the Mets hit, and who's ever playing here at Citi Field, that money raised stays right here in the New York area at major cancer centers in this area. But that's kind of the message for Father's Day, that, you know, cancer is not necessarily going to be a life sentence today. And there's more than 12 million Americans today, I'm happy to be one of them, alive and well, you know, who were diagnosed with cancer sometime in their lifetime. And I think within 5 years, prostate cancer will be kind of a chronic disease, but not a life-threatening disease. And as you know, in baseball, it's hard to find a team that didn't have someone who's had prostate cancer. And many of the managers, whether it was Frank Robinson when he was managing, or Dusty Baker, or Joe Torre, etc., were kind of the spokespersons for us for the Prostate Cancer Foundation.
And of course, the message you want to get across to all men is to get themselves checked.
You know, you wish that all life-threatening diseases had an early warning system, particularly when you have no symptoms. When I was diagnosed in '93, I had absolutely no symptoms, and I had to, you know, kind of browbeat the doctor and telling him, besides for cholesterol, I want to have my PSA test. And it came back in the high 20s, and the rest was history for me. But I think
Quintanilla lifts one out to left, and Pierre is there for the second out.
I think we all wish we had a simple test. And next year, with some of the money that's been raised from this home run challenge, there'll be a new test. It's going to be a urine test. And it's going to be far more accurate. And it's going to be able to identify on a genetic level which one of 27 types of prostate cancer you have. And one of the most interesting things about this test is for 6 or 7 of them, they don't go anywhere and you don't have to have any treatment. So instead of being a general prostate cancer, it'll be specifically identified.
Daniel Murphy, the batter. We're visiting with Michael Milken, who's representing the Prostate Cancer Foundation, talking about the 18th annual Home Run Challenge. So remind people how they can get involved in the Home Run Challenge.
The easiest way is to go to PCF.org, standing for the Prostate Cancer Foundation. And as both of you know, we've discovered a lot in nutrition You know, I notice we have the gluten-free section here at Citi Field for everyone to come on out. But food and what we know about it has changed dramatically over the years. And we know today that eating things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower not only affects potentially serving to reduce carcinogens in your body for prostate, but pretty much all cancers. We know that the charring of food has a negative effect over time. And so we know a lot more. And the outlook for eliminating prostate cancer is great.
Murphy grounds out to end the inning. Michael Milken, thank you so much for joining us and reminding us and getting us ready for the home run challenge.
Well, thank you, and remind you that it's $20,000 for every home run hit today.
Fantastic.
So let's see a few home runs. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. 5 in the books now at Citi Field. The Mets and Marlins tied at 1. Sixth inning at Citi Field. It's been everything you expected with Matt Harvey and Jose Fernandez matching up for the second time. Two young pitchers who will probably face each other many dozens of times over the next coming years. And Lucas leads off in the sixth and takes a fastball for a strike. Harvey's been able to keep his pitch count down. He has not walked a batter today. Struck out only 3 over the first 5 innings, well below his norm. And gets the curveball over for a strike, 0-2. Jose Fernandez gave up some hits early in this game, but he has certainly settled in.
It's been that pitch right there, and I'm trying to figure out why it comes and goes. And I'm thinking that maybe because of all the breaking pitches and the lack of the fastball command. Now, lack of the fastball command. He's given up 1 run in 5 innings. But you know, that ability to dominate hitters up in the strike zone eludes him every once in a while. Interesting two-seamer there. You see that? Trying to throw that ball off the plate away and dart that outside corner. Sunk down and in.
Here's the 1-2. And he got him. Good slider by Matt Harvey to strike out Ed Lucas for the second time. His 4th strikeout of the day.
Well, that fastball, prior pitch down and in, sets up this little slider away. Think about Harvey. See how he reaches back all the way to as far as he can go to second base and then doesn't let go of that ball till, boy, he gets right in front of his face and chest.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Derek Dietrich, who singled to right and scored the only Marlins run in the 4th inning.
You know, when you watch most pitchers, if they have this kind of extension, they'll cup the baseball. It means they'll wrap it with their wrist. He does not. He just puts it back there, almost like you would envision if you were teaching someone in the Olympics to throw a javelin. That's kind of how you would teach them, to reach back as far as they could with that arm open, to throw it as far as you could. For Harvey, it's to throw it as hard as he can.
And there's not a tremendous amount of pronation, which you see often when guys extend backward like that.
That's the key. He doesn't cup it with his wrist. When it cups with your wrist, that really front of your shoulder is the one that's compromised. He does not do that. It's a nice, fluid, easy motion.
That's the way his dad taught him to throw when he was just a kid. There's a nice curveball for a strike, and it's 2-2. It's been interesting watching Matt today, given the fact that he struggled with his changeup the last start, a pitch he threw a lot. He's barely thrown it at all this afternoon.
Well, it'll be interesting to talk to him this week and find out if he and Buck, as they had that meeting that Kevin was talking about, that 10-minute meeting, if they decided just to junk it for this start. Show it, but not use it a lot.
Yeah, because especially against the left-hand hitters, that was a primary focus for Harvey in that start last Sunday. 2-2. Got him with a curveball. Back-to-back strikeouts for Harvey to start the 6th inning. 2 out and nobody out. Let's check in with Gary Apple. He has a game break presented by your Tri-Honda dealer. All right, thanks, Gary. Here's Marcell Ozuna, who had a base hit in the 4th inning to help build the Marlins' run. They got picked off to end that inning.
Darvish has all those strikeouts, but he hasn't won in 3 starts, and it might be 4.
And Mark Burley finally pitching well for Toronto.
Toronto's starting to get some better performances. R.A. Dickey in his last start was as good as he's been all year.
Still, they're 8 games under 500 and 10.5 out of first place.
4 teams to travel over.
By the way, speaking of Toronto, you see who they called up today?
Yes, I did. JT.
Josh Tolley back in the big leagues.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's nice to see Josh getting another opportunity. Of course, he was part of the trade that brought the Mets Travis d'Arnaud and John Buck and Noah Syndergaard. Slap to the right side.